Well, hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Now today's video is about a trip that I had out here to this location about a week ago. Now on that particular night, I left some of my vital video equipment at home by mistake, so I couldn't record live on the scene at night, which is unfortunate, but nevertheless, I thought I'd bring you all back out here again today to show you exactly how I went about shooting the images that I want to feature here today on the channel. Now, I've been to this location a few times in the past, and I'm sure you're going to recognize the subject matter that I'm going to be showing you, which is what I actually shot here the other night. But when I get over there, I'll explain a bit more. But probably about 6 months ago, I was here and I shot a panorama facing off to the west with the Milky Way core setting down across the landscape. And at this time of year in March, I thought, well, look, I might shoot the same thing but facing the opposite direction. So I wanted to shoot a rising Milky Way galactic core in the east. So that means I had to position my camera on the other side of the subject matter. But before I do anything, I'm going to put my boots on. Why is that? Long grass everywhere, and this time of year there's plenty of snakes around, so I just want to do a bit of safety, protect my feet and get away from those wriggly creatures if there's any of them out there. Oh, they're not too bad. If there's any snakes out there, I'll just avoid them. I'll make a bit of noise and hopefully they'll scram. Okay, so the last time I was here at this location, I shot this little sapling gum tree, which was positioned that way. So I had my camera down there, facing over towards the west. Now, as you can see, well, I'll show you in a minute, the water level has increased dramatically here at the lake where I am. And I wouldn't have been able to get that shot now. So that's something that I was taking into consideration when I came over here, because I knew the water was very high after last year's floods. And so the two trees that I want to feature in my panorama facing towards the east, well, it's not a problem this time because I'm facing across the top of the water. But when I was here facing towards the west, there's no way that I could have got that shot because the water's right up to where the tree level is. But anyway, it's good to come back and have a look and see what it looks like now. So I'll show you the two trees. Okay, so here I am on location, pretty much where I had my camera positioned the other night. You can see my two trees in the background. Now, my intention here was to shoot a panorama, but not a really wide one. All I really wanted to do was capture the edge of the water down there and around just the other side of this tree on this side. So I figured I was going to be using a 20mm lens. So I shot about 7 frames to get that pano. And I shot 2 rows because I needed to get the sky as well as the foreground. And my intention was to do a tracked panorama for the sky. So I needed something in the sky on my original pano because I'm going to be using the Photoshop sky replacement to do that sky replacement. And anyway, so I shot 7 shots across the foreground here, 7 shots in the next level up, next row to do the sky. So I had 14 shot panorama. I shot those at f2.8, 20mm, 20-second shutter speed at ISO 3200. Now, some of you might ask me, why did I use a 20-second shutter speed? Isn't that a bit too long? Well, maybe just a fraction too long, but you know what? I'm not going to be using that sky anyway. I'm going to be using a sky replacement. In my tracked pano is what I'm going to be using for the sky. So it doesn't really matter if I've got little bits of star trails because I'm going to replace that sky anyway. Now the extra 20 seconds enables me to get a little bit more ambient exposure in the foreground here. Speaking of the foreground, I was light painting with my torch the foreground. Now that's difficult to do for a panorama. Why? Because I need to try and get that lighting as evenly as possible spread right across the frame. And if you've ever tried that, doing 14 shots and lighting each one of them, it's not easy to do. Typically you might use low level lighting for the same purpose, but in this case I didn't have any other stuff with me. You know, I walked across the long grass here at night, didn't have my camera gear, only had my camera to shoot. I wasn't going to lug a whole lot more stuff over through all that long grass. There's rocks everywhere as well. So that's what I did with this shot. And from there, I did my tracked pano just a little bit further over there. So I set my tracker up just up here, away from the trees. Now, you know I do this all the time, and I apologize for any of you who are a little bit upset by the fact that I'm not shooting the tracked shot from exactly the same position. But you know what? The sky doesn't change very much between here and about 20 meters that way. So I shot over towards the sky without the trees in the foreground. Why do I do that? Because it is just so much easier to blend that sky without any foreground tree sticking up into the sky later on. It just makes perfect sense. And I'm still here on the same night, same location, same direction, same sky. That's what I'm doing. So I mentioned to you before that I did the light painting separately for each individual frame. Now, I got off to the side, so the camera's just over there in that space between the two trees. The Milky Way galactic core was coming up right between the two trees, and that was the whole point of this shoot. I wanted to make sure I captured that scene that I was seeing before me. So I got off to the side here, shone the torch up onto the tree and around the surrounding grassy area here. But I had to move from one side to the other so that I captured the lit foreground across the frame from both left to right. And you know, you're going to ask me, well, how do I know where to do that? How do I know where to put my lights? How do I know how long the light should be on for? I honestly don't. It's trial and error. I took the first couple of shots, had a look at the back of the screen just to see if I thought I was going okay. Now you can see that this grass is summer here, just out of summer. And so the grass here is very dry, so it's very bright. It doesn't take much light for this grassy area here to flare out like crazy. So I had to be careful because as I was closer to this foreground, it became brighter. I had to sort of lift my torch up, shone a little bit further away from where I was. And then in post-production, I sort of smoothed off, feathered out the edges, brushed them out a little bit to make it a little bit more darker. But I was actually really happy with how this pano came up. So you can see from this camera angle just how close the water line here is to these trees. And of course it didn't matter for this shoot, but if I had been here trying to shoot that direction like I was last year, it would have been almost impossible. Well, it would have been impossible because I would have had to have been out in the water there to get that pano facing west. So I was pretty happy to be able to come when the water level's high and have to face the other direction. It just made sense. But I'll tell you what, it's such a beautiful day to be out here today. There's nobody around. Bit windy. In fact, the wind is gusting now. I'm glad it wasn't doing that the other night, because if it had been windy, it would have made things a whole lot more difficult with all this grass and the leaves on the tree moving around. All right, so I'll show you what I did for the other couple of shots while I was here. So I figured while I was here, I wanted to shoot both of these trees as individual frames. You know, I was already in the position, they both had good compositions facing off down to the rising core coming up over the other side of the lake over there. So I thought, why not? And you know, one of the things I haven't done a lot of this summer here in Australia is light painting. A lot of my images that I've been shooting this summer have been long exposure foregrounds where I haven't actually done any lighting. So I thought, well, while I've got the trees here in the position, it wasn't very windy, I just do a little bit of lighting, same as I had done for the Pano. But with the Pano shots, they were all shot at f2.8, same settings as the sky. But for these tree shots, I did my standard fine art light painting where I stopped down the aperture to about f5 and dropped my ISO down to ISO 800, and I shot the foreground shots for about 10 seconds. And then I also shot on the tracker for the background. So I shot one of these in a portrait orientation, the other one in a landscape, and did the same thing, did the tracked sky over there, just away from the trees, just single tracked sky shots, by the way, one shot. So I've been really delighted with shooting on my Skywatcher Star Adventurer Mini. It's so small, lightweight, portable, works like a treat, and especially for 60-second shutter speeds, which I've been doing mostly with the trackers these days. I'm shooting those at ISO 1600, f2.8, works a treat. I use my Nikon Z6 with the hydrogen alpha modification for the sky shots, just to get that little bit more color in the nebulosity in the Milky Way. And you know, it's simple, and you know, as I'm getting older, I am getting more simple. I don't know if it's old age creeping in or what it is, but I just want to keep things as straightforward and easy and simple as possible. And because of that, I reckon these shots worked out pretty well also. So there you have it. That's my adventure out here at the lake, under the stars, just shooting a few simple images. I didn't want to complicate everything. And you know, when I come back here, it's one of my, I guess, my happy places. I just love the water here at the lake, love these trees, just love the shoreline here. And in fact, while I'm here today, I might just go and do a little bit more investigating a bit further down there, which I haven't actually shot in the past, so you just never know. I've got to take every advantage that I have while I'm out here on location to have a good look around. So thanks guys, I appreciate you coming along for the journey with me here today. Only a pretty short video, but I hope you got something out of it, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.